We'll start off by making sure Exploring Properties is open. So we'll go to the top of our screen, click on View, and open Exploring Properties. Next, we'll insert our ScreenGui into StarGui by clicking the plus, and we'll rename the ScreenGui to Def Screen. With our ScreenGui selected, we'll go down to Properties, and then we'll tick Ignore GUI instead, and we'll untick Reset on Spawn. And we'll change the display order to something above 0, so it can be whatever you want. I'm just going to say it to 5, but you can set it to whatever number you want. After that, click on the plus next to Def Screen, insert a frame, and we'll rename this frame to Main Frame. Then going down to Properties, we'll change background color free to a nice little black, so just set it to 000 or just type 0. Scroll down, click on size, just type in 1, press enter, and it should cover your whole screen. And we're going to want to add some elements inside of this black box. So I'm going to be adding a little skull that appears when the player dies and disappears and fades into a "you died" text. And then we'll have a little respawn button that appears just after. So we'll start off by adding the skull image. We'll click on the plus, insert image label, click on it, change background transparency to 1, change the size to 1, and it should cover your whole screen like this. Click on the plus inside of the image label and insert a UI aspect ratio constraint. After that, we'll scroll down and go to image. So you can use whatever image you want to use. I'm leaving the image that I'm going to be using on the screen. So you just want to put in that code, paste it in, and then we'll have our little skull image right here. I'm going to change the skull to a nice red. So I'll just set it to fully red. And then I'll set the background transparency to like 0.47 maybe. Looks nice. And then we'll click on one of the dots and we'll scale it down until something around like this. So it perfectly fits in the center of the screen. To make sure it fits in the screen, we'll go to anchor points and properties, put in 0.5 or 0.5 comma 0.5, go to position, and then we'll put 0.5 there as well, and then it'll perfectly center to our screen. I'm going to quickly rename this image label to skull. After that, we'll click the plus on mainframe, insert a text label, and we'll rename this to "you died" text. So first off, we'll go to size, type in 1, anchor point 0.5, background transparency 1, position 0.5. So it should be centered right now. You should see like a tiny little text in the center of your screen. So what we'll do now is we'll go to text color free, click the black box, and then we'll do pick screen color. And we'll set it to the same color as the transparent skull image. Then we'll go to font face. You can choose which font you want to use. I'm going to use Montserrat. I'm going to use the weight black. Scroll down, set text scale to true, change the text to "you died," and then we'll just drag to the side for a little bit. Use the white little dots to scale it down to something like this. And then we'll center it in our screen by going to position and just typing in 0.5. If it looks a bit off center like that, that means you haven't set the anchor point, so make sure you set the anchor point and then the position, and it should be perfectly centered. So now that we've made our "you died" text in the skull, we're going to make our little respawn button. So we'll click on the plus in main frame, insert a text button, and then we'll do what we did with "you died" text. We'll just a little bit different. We'll change background transparency to something like 0.3, background color free to maybe just 74 on red and 0 on everything else. I'll say it looks nice. We'll change the position to 0.5, change the anchor point to 0.5, and then we'll change the size to 1. So we can just scale this down to a nice little size. I'd say that size looks good, so we'll go back to properties. We'll edit our text. I'm going to be using Montserrat again. Text scaled, text color free. I'm going to set that to the same as the "you died" text. And I'm going to set the weight to black, and there we go. So I'm going to make our burn look a little bit nicer by adding a UI corner. Then I'll change the corner radius to something like 0.25. Looks good. Click on the plus again. We'll add a UI padding, and then going to top and bottom, we'll click the arrows on top and bottom, and we'll change scale to something like 0.15 on both of these. And then you should put the button into like a nice little position so it doesn't look too big, but not too small as well. We'll click on the plus again. I'll add a UI stroke. Click on the UI stroke, change apply stroke mode to border, change the color to, change it to the "you died" text color, and then we'll change the thickness to something like 2 or 3 I'll change this to 2. And then we'll click on the text button. We'll rename this text to respawn. Then we'll rename the button to respawn button. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our position and we'll make sure on the X, we're going to make sure that it is 0.5 and we'll drag it up just slightly below the UDI text. Make sure the position is 0.5. If it's like 0.499 or something, that is not 0.5. So make sure you set it to 0.5. So you should have something that looks like this. It's kind of a jump, it's kind of a mess, but we're going to be scripting it in a bit. So the next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add a little sound that plays whenever the player dies. You don't have to do this, but this is what I'm going to be doing. So we'll click on the plus on death screen, add a sound, and then we'll rename this to death sound. You can use whatever sound you want. I'm going to be leaving the one that I'm going to be using on the screen and in the description. So you can go ahead and copy the one that I'm using if you want, but you can set it whatever you want it to be. Once you create your death sound, we'll go to mainframe, click on it, right click, and then we'll do duplicate, or you can do press Ctrl D or Command D, whatever it is. And then we'll drag this duplicate mainframe into our actual mainframe, open it up, remove everything inside of it, and then we'll rename this to white. We'll change the background color free to a little white, and change the background transparency to 1. Alright then, so we've got all of our elements. So we'll click on the plus in dev screen, and then we'll insert a local script. Rename this local script to something like main script. So what we'll do first is we'll remove the print, and then we'll type local mainframe equals script.parent.mainframe local u died text equals mainframe.udied text local respawn button equals mainframe.respawn button local skull image equals mainframe.skull local white frame equals mainframe.white. Then we'll reference our def sound by doing local def sound equals script.parent.def sound. Then we'll reference some services. We'll do local tween service equals game get service tween service. Then we'll reference replicate storage equals game get service replicate storage. Then we'll add a little debounce called local button enabled equals false. So this is our main references. We'll be adding some more later in the video, but this is everything that we need right now. So we'll do local function on player died. So we're going to create this function for when the player dies. This function will run when the player dies, basically. So we just want to add our basic parameters for what we want to change. So starting off, we want to play the def sound, so we'll do def sound :play, create 2 new lines. Then we'll set our mainframe to its default, so we'll do mainframe.visible equals true, mainframe.background color free equals color free.from RGB, and we'll set it to like 1200, so it's got a slight little red tint. And then we'll tween it down to a nice black, just to give it that sort of dot effect on the screen, I guess. And we'll do mainframe.background transparency equals 0. Next we want to do the skull image, so we'll do skull image.image transparency equals 0. Then skull image.size. We want to change the size of the skull image to something larger than what it is right now. So we'll click on the skull, size it up just a tiny bit, something like this. Go to our properties, and then we'll copy the size. Then undo. Once you copy the size, go back to the main script, do equals udem2.new, and paste in the size, and then remove these little squiggly brackets. So that is the skull image all done. Next we'll do the respawn button, so we'll do respawn button dot background transparency equals 1, respawn button dot text transparency equals 1, respawn button dot UI stroke dot transparency equals 1, then respawn button dot position equals its current position. So we'll click on respawn button, go to properties, copy the position, and then we'll do udem2.new, paste in the position, remove the squiggly brackets, and there we go. There's our respawn button done. Next we'll do the UDI text, so we'll do UDI text.position equals udem2.new, And your position should be 0.50, 0.50, and if it isn't, that means that you didn't change your anchor point. So make sure you change your anchor point. So next we'll do uDiText.visible equals true, uDiText.text transparency equals 1. So next we want to create our animations, because basically this is what this is doing is it's making the mainframe visible, it's hiding the uDiText and the respawn button initially, and then it's making the skull image visible. Now we want to make some animations which makes the skull image sort of size down, then the uDiText pops in. To do that, we'll make 2 new lines under replicated storage, and we'll do local out tween equals tweeninfo.new, and we'll do 0.5 enum.easingstyle.quad enum.easingdirection.out. You could use whatever easing style you want, but I always use quad because it's the one that I like the most, but you use what you want to use. So after that, we're going to create our tween. So we'll make 2 new lines here, and then we'll do tween service :create, and then we'll do mainframe, and we'll do comma out tween, and we'll do squiggly brackets with another comma, and we'll do background color free equals colorfree.from RGB. Just a little mistake there. And then we'll do 0, 0, 0. And at the end, add :play at the end. Make another line. You can actually copy this. We'll paste it into this line. We'll change mainframe to the skull image. And then we'll change background color free to image transparency. We'll set the image transparency to its current transparency, which is 0.47. After this, add a comma. And then we'll do size equals udem2.new. And then we want to set the skull to its current size, which is this. So click on the skull, copy its size, and then paste it into here with the squiggly lines. And there we go. So for our next animation, we'll let 2 new lines. Do task.weight 0.5. So we can actually just copy this again, but we just want to change the values. So the image transparency, we'll set that to 1. And then going back into our place, you just want to set the skull image to a bit tiny, like pixels, basically. We'll copy this, undo our changes, and then we'll paste this into the size. So we'll copy this again. We'll remove the size parameter, change the image transparency to text transparency, so that's a 0, and change skull image to uDiText. Basically what this does is it tweens the skull image out to a view, and then it tweens in the uDiText. So next we want to show our respawn button, so we'll do 2 new lines again. Task.wait, and then we can do like 2 seconds this time. And then we'll do respawn button.visible equals true, and tween service :create, respawn button, out tween. And for this, what we want to do is we want to change a couple more properties and, well, what we'd like to do. So we'll do position equals udem2.new. Going back into the game, select respawn button in your word, hold Control or Command, and click the uDiText, drag it up until these 2 rulers show in the horizontal and vertical lines. Let go, click on the uDiText, copy the position, go to main script, and we'll create a little comment by using 2 dashes, and then we'll name this the uDiText. Then add another comment and copy the respawn button position, and we'll paste it in. So just before we get into this a bit too much, we want to add a few more tweens. So scroll up, copy out tween, we'll name this out tween 2, and then we'll just change the time to 1 second, add another line, and then we'll name this in tween, this will be 1 second, and we'll change the easing direction to in. Copy this again, and then we'll rename this in out tween, 1 second, easing direction should be in out. Now we've got our new tweens, we'll change out tween on these 2 to in out tween. Now for this one we'll use out tween 2. Now in this tween we'll copy the position for the respawn button, paste it into here, remove the squiggly brackets, and we'll add a comma at the end. We'll change the background transparency 0.3, which is the current default, and then we'll change text transparency to 0. At the end, we'll add :play, create a new line, tween service :create, we'll do respawn button dot UI stroke tween 2, and our property table can be transparency equals 0.3. Colon play at the end, new line, tween service colon create. We'll do UDI text out tween 2, and we'll do position equals udin2 not new, and then we'll copy the position of the UDI text here, paste it in, with squiggly brackets, colon play at the end. We can remove these comments now, and then we'll do button enabled equals true, and there we go. There's our animations all done. So next, what we want to do is we want to detect when the player dies. So we'll add 2 new lines past the end. We'll do local function connect died event, the brackets at the end. We'll do local humanoid equals character colon wait for child, the brackets, and 2 quotation marks, and we'll do humanoid. Inside of these brackets right here, we'll do character, new line here, and then we'll do humanoid died colon connect on player died, and we'll do the brackets at the end. And it should look like this. Just for some extra checks, we'll do local player equals game.players.local player.character added colon connect died event without the brackets. 2 new lines, we'll do if player.character then connect died event player.character. Now if we want to, we can actually go ahead and test this out now, but we can't respawn yet. So go over to main place, click on mainframe, we'll set visible to false, go to players, and then change the respawn time to a huge number, so just hold 9 on your keyboard for about 3 seconds, let go, press enter, and then your respawn time should be infinite. So let's go ahead and try it out. So I'm testing this out for the first time. I'm just going to go ahead and reset. Our sound plays, our skull appears, the UDI text appears, the respawn button appears, and then the text moves up a tiny bit to make room for the respawn button. Everything works perfectly. So now that everything works properly, we're going to add 2 new things. We're going to go to replicate storage, click on the plus, and we're going to add a remote event. In this remote event to respawn player, go to service, click the plus, add a script, and then we'll rename the script to def handler. So we'll come back to the script in a second. So go back to our main script, we'll go up, and then just underneath replicate storage, we'll do local respawn player equals replicate storage colon wait for child respawn player. Next we're going to script the respawn button. We'll create 2 new lines. We'll do respawn button dot mouse one click colon connect function. Then we'll reference our debounce. We'll do if button enabled, then button enabled equals false. If you remember, we set button enabled to true here. So if the button enabled is true, then button enabled is now false, so the player can't spam click it. So we'll do respawn player colon fire server. Then we'll do tween service colon create, and then we'll do our white frame in tween, and we'll do the background transparency equals 0 colon play. We can copy this. We'll do task.wait just 1 second, and then we'll play this tween again, but we'll change the background transparency to 1, and we'll change the in tween to out tween 2, not just out tween 2. After that, we'll do mainframe.background transparency equals 1, UDI text.visible equals false, and then respawn button.visible equals false. And there we go, that is our respawn button all scripted. Now we can go to def handler in service script service. We'll remove this. We'll do local replicated storage equals game colon get service replicate storage local respawn player equals replicated storage colon wait for child respawn player, and we'll do respawn player on server event colon connect function. Then we'll do if player and player dot character, then we'll reference the player in our function. We'll do player colon load character. So what this does is, in our script here, it fires respawn player, and then it gets signed up by the server to respawn the player, since we can't actually respawn the player on the client. So now we can actually go ahead and test this out and see if it works. So in the game, we can go ahead and test this out. I'm just going to go ahead and reset. Death screen appears, skull fades, text appears, respawn button appears. Click the respawn button, fades to white, then it fades out, and then we're back into the game again. Notice, if I reset, our health is nothing, so we know that we're dead. And if we respawn, the health bar goes away, and we know that we respawned. So that was my tutorial on how to make a death screen in Roblox Studio with a little bit of animation inside of it. It looks a little bit nicer, so hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.